And welcome to the Draft Brewery. We are here with Mono Blue Control version 2.0 after another undefeated tournament record. And we took the week off, went to the Beta Breakers in San Francisco, had a great time. But I was still interested in playing this deck the following week because it did pretty well, but it had some glaring flaws and had some better choices out there that I wanted to test out and just see how they did, and tried to play against different decks. I didn't play against very many different decks. Last time I had the palindrome where I played first round and last round were the same, second round and second to last round were the same. So I want to see if this deck can handle everybody. So here's the choices that I made in terms of changing the deck. The first choice that was the easiest was cutting v2.0 for divination. It's just more mana efficient, and I'm not trying to play draw go really at all. I'm actually trying to just win the resource battle and stick a creature or a threat that's resilient and race, or just kind of time walk them with my grip tide effects into oblivion. So some of these cards, Enhanced Awareness is not efficient enough. It's basically the reason why v2.0 is not good. It's the same reason why Enhanced Awareness is not good. Nimbus Nide is basically a win condition. It's a 5 mana. Make your Jeskai Sage or Whirlwind Adept very hard to kill, and not even that hard to kill, but just make your blockers irrelevant and send them to the sky where they can take over the game. I just don't think I need a second one of this effect to win the game. And you'll see, even in the sideboard, I cut one of my win cons in Aqueous form. Again, it's a way to win against control decks, but I think I'm already positioned really well against control decks in the first place. I just want to shore up my matchups that are difficult. Because Radiant Fountain's my only life gain, small creatures, getting swarmed is what my deck is prone to losing to, so I want to shore up those defenses. So so Disdainful Stroke is not a main deckable card. There's too many decks out there that have very few targets. The mono red decks, the mono green decks have very few targets, and I figured those decks would be kind of popular. I figured, it's only really good against the control decks, blue black and blue red, and any heroic deck. It's just awful against. So don't think it's main deckable. And the second cancel is definitely not what my deck wants to be either. It's too reactive. I'm more into letting them resolve things, but then dealing with them. So that's kind of what my game plan changed to, is that I have one Whisk Away, again, because I already have the 4 Grip Tide, and I want the Whisk Away there as when there's a one of it, it's really hard for them to play around, and I like for them to see cards like that game one. Voyage's End is kind of the same thing. It's just a one of, just to have some additional outs against fast starts. Our deck provides so much card advantage in the Treasure Cruise Divination and Evolving Wilds, just thinning our deck, just so much action generated in our deck that it's okay to have spells that just bounce even in this control deck because they buy us so much time. We potentially get 2-for-1s when they go for pump spells. We potentially get to scry a land to the bottom, which is almost like drawing a card, so it's a pretty fine card, I think. Rise of Eagles, just to have the third one, because I think having access to it was really important. I don't think 2 is enough, because we sometimes just want to close the game out. We don't want to be scrambling for our win condition. And then my debate was always between Jeskai Sage and Palace Familiar, and Jeskai Sage is definitely better. There's not too many low toughness creatures that you need to block that fly. So Palace Familiar is just Jeskai Sage number 5. Jeskai Sage has been overperforming, and the card is just pretty solid. So those are the changes. In the sideboard, decided to add the 4th Sidisi's Faithful, because that card was highly overperforming as well. If I could in mono blue, I would like to play something with more than 4 toughness. A 5 or 6 toughness creature would be even good. I actually couldn't think of one, and I didn't really feel like kind of researching it. But now, just when I think of it right now, there's the Guardian of Melentis or something. It's a 0/6 defender for 3 mana. That card might actually be pretty good. I want it against the green decks. I want to be able to block the 5/5 if I don't have any other answer to it. The problem is, like, even with the 0/4 and the other decks, like, you just force them to use a pump spell to get through it anyway. But I like it that the 0/4 can block 3 power creatures, which is where the red and green decks like really have done well in the past. Is that so many people play like Omen Speaker? It just doesn't do anything against like the 3/2s and 3/3s. So I really like Cities Use Faithful for that. So looking at the deck, this is the deck in all of its glory, right? So still have the 2 negates main, 1 Void's End, 4 Nullify, 2 Anticipate. So you have a great amount of options on 2 mana. Still have 1 Cancel, 1 Whisk Away, 1 Nimbus Naiad, so some things to do. This Nimbus Naiad is actually more like a 5-drop. Griptide has just been a friggin' all-star card. Again, is so much better than Whisk Away because being able to cast it when they are, tapped out is just super relevant when it's on your turn. Just being able to do it at instant speed and not at when they're attacking speed is really, really good. Whirlwind Adept, pretty solid. Now, if I did have to make a change to this deck, I actually might. I don't know if I'll cut a Whirlwind Adept, but I do feel like I want 1 Benthic Giant in this list. Just to, again, if I'm going to diversify my threats or my answers into like a bunch of one-ofs, hard things to play around, 1 of Hexproof Giant might be a little bit better. It just blocks a little bit better. Where you'll see there's plenty of situations where I'm kind of forced to trading with my Whirlwind Adept, whereas if I had a Benthic Giant, I would not have to trade, or I'd force them to, blow a pump spell. So yeah, still 4 Treasure Cruise, and I've learned, learned pretty quickly, never side out Treasure Cruise. The card is just better the more you have it, because it cascades out of control. If anything, just make the rest of your high curve, shave it, and then improve your lower end curve against the aggro decks, and then Treasure Cruise to refuel is just how you beat them, actually. So yeah, the rest of the sideboard, just negate Disdainful Stroke against the control decks, Sidisi's Faithful Coral Barrier against the mono red decks and the Boros decks and the just kind of white aggro decks. Faithful is also very good against the heroic decks to reset their heroic creatures. Also very good against 3 power attackers. So create roadblocks, make them waste pump spells, killing your 0/4 instead of dealing extra damage to your face, which is really important. And then the Voyage's End, again, just against aggressive decks. We're just trying to lower our curve here to give ourselves more time. So yes, this is version 2 of the deck. The mana base stayed exactly the same. Radiant Fountain is quite good. Considerations I actually made to splashing, because all it would take would be like 1 plains or 1, swamp, and then just 4 dual lands, and we'd basically have like 9 sources to get an off-color card. And that also gives you 4 extra life gain lands, which I think is decent. And 8 comes into play tap lands. Not the worst, but this deck really does like to play a tap land on turn 1 and then not have too many tap lands beyond that. If there was more evolving wild type effects, we would gladly welcome them. But yeah, so that was the deck, and this is Magic Online, just being Magic Online. So let's take a picture of this, take a look at this pretty little island, a little old school. And stay tuned. I will be back with round 1 with hopefully Magic Online complying here.